Welcome to the award-winning RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by RotoWire's free trial at rotowire.com/try and DraftKings Pick 6 and Vivid Seats. It is Friday, October 25th, 2024. Alex Barutha here, Shannon McEwen, and Ken K-Train Kreitz.
All aboard!
We're back to our usual format. So the regular season has kicked off, so we're going to start with news from yesterday, then answer some fan questions. So if you are in the chat on YouTube, fling some questions our way, and we'll get to that after the news. Then we'll talk waiver wire and close out the show with some DraftKings Pick 6 leans. But first, we got an update. Paul George is expected to miss at least 2 more games per the Sixers. Still dealing with a bone bruise in his left knee. We saw the Milwaukee Bucks clean up the other night against them when they started Eric Gordon. Yabusele was in there. Kelly Oubre tried to help out.
The dancing bear returns to the NBA. Love it.
I don't know, Ken, how do you feel about this news? I mean, is this actionable at all, or is this just like if you have Paul George, throw him on your IR if you can, and that's that?
I mean, we mentioned Caleb Martin in our sleeper list. He could get monster minutes. You know, NBA wise, it doesn't really matter what happens in the fall, but boy, if you're a Sixers fan and you're so used to Embiid's injury issues, and now Paul George is looking like a rickety old cart, it's just scary. But fantasy wise, make sure Caleb Martin's on your Kelly Oubre are on your kind of watch list.
Yeah, if you're in a daily daily moves league and you have a streaming spot available, those guys are options. I think that's about it. Not long-term pickups. We're not really expecting Paul George to miss like extended time, but it is a little worrying that they keep pushing it. Two games. Ken, we had more rookies make their debuts last night.
Yeah, Alex Sarr, the number 2 pick, made his debut last night for the Wizards. Washington lost to Boston 122-102. Frankly, it wasn't that close, even though the Wizards were up early in the first. The number overall 2 pick did start, but Sarr posted a modest 2 points on 1 of 7 shooting, including 0 of 5 from behind the arc. He looked pretty hesitant. Boston, pretty tough opponent, but Sarr looked pretty lost to me. Fellow Washington rookies Carlton Carrington and Keyshawn George also saw 20-plus minutes each. Carrington hurt his ankle late in the game. It looked a little, didn't look great. I actually thought the 20-year-old George looked the best of the 3. But, gentlemen, the Wizards look like they're going to be cellar dwellers all season. After Poole and Kuzma, who do you see as possible gems in the rough, fantasy-wise, on this Wizards roster?
You got thoughts here, Shannon?
Sarr's still going to factor into. Yeah, Sarr's still going to factor into the mix there. He's had some tough showings during the summer league, during the preseason. I wouldn't be too worried about him just having a rough shooting night. It's also his regular season debut. Is Sarr going to be as productive as most number 2 overall picks are right out the gate? Probably not, but I still think he's going to return top 120, 130 value this season.
Yeah, I agree with you on George, by the way, Ken. Keyshawn George looked great during preseason. So I don't know if it's gonna end up being like fantasy relevant this year. But if you're in a keeper format, a dynasty league, and it's deep, he's sitting there, scoop him up if you're a rebuilding squad. I think that's fair enough.
Nice. Shannon, take us to news out of Texas.
Yeah, big Mavericks debut for everyone's favorite. Klay Thompson had a giant game. Can you guys hear me okay? It's choppy on my end.
It's kind of it's borderline.
I'll dive in. Anyway, Klay Thompson hit 6 threes last night in his debut for the Mavericks. 6 of 10 from behind the arc, 7 of 13 overall. More interesting, 3 steals, because I feel like the knee injury recovery is more of an issue on the defensive side for Klay, but 3 steals, really nice. 0 turnovers in a kind of semi-dominant 109 win for the Mavs over the Spurs. Thoughts on Klay Thompson and Dallas, guys?
Yeah, I mean, some of this was like Nick and I talked about this on the Sirius XM show, where it's like, how is San Antonio going to score points? They managed to get some. Yeah, they got some Harrison Barnes and some other guys managed to do it. But they're just not a very good team right now, especially with Vassell out. I think the main thing for Klay, you mentioned the steals, which are nice. I don't necessarily expect that to continue, but if you drafted Klay, you're looking for the 3-point volume. Like, that's at the end of the day, you drafted him, and we're hoping that he'd take 10 threes a game. And he took 10 threes last night in only 26 minutes. So in more competitive games, if he's playing 32, 33, 34 minutes, he's launching up 12, 13 threes. Assuming he can hit, high 30s, 40%. I think he's, you can have him in fantasy.
Shannon, how's your tech? That's not a good sign.
That's not a good sign. He's very late.
Yeah, they work it. Okay. Hey, now let's get to the fan feedback questions.
I saw someone in the chat said that someone dropped Brandon Miller in their league. Please pick up Brandon Miller if he got dropped in your league. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Here's a question. Do I need to drop Tre Jones?
Yeah, I am not. He'll have some games like
16 minutes last night.
Thank you. He only played 16 minutes last night. And had 3 points, 3 assists. Like, there are going to be some games where he probably plays 22 minutes and has like 7 assists, and you're going to be like, I just don't think with Chris Paul there. Castle had some nice moments last night. I don't think in a standard league that you need to roster Jones.
Dilemma, it's like assists only, right? He's never been a good 3-point shooter. Never a big, not a high steals guy, I don't think. But I mean, Paul's going to need to rest.
But I would 10-team, 12-team leagues. I'm dropping Tre Jones. We saw what he could do in 27, 28 minutes, 29 minutes the last 2 seasons, and it wasn't that big of a fantasy impact. The minutes are certainly going to be less this year. CP3, like you said, Castle's on the roster. Eventually, Vassell's going to come back. You've got Keldon Johnson being able to come off the bench. I do not expect Tre Jones to have a significant 25-plus minute role with the Spurs unless Chris Paul gets hurt.
Now, there's a lot of questions here that our names are going to bring up in the waiver wire section, so I'm going to hold off on those. Here's one about four specific pickup possibilities. Boucher had a nice opening night for the Raptors. Hunter, Alexander Walker, or Hayes. Any preferences amongst those 4, gentlemen? Shannon, let's start with you.
Of those 4, I'm going to surprise. I mean, I'm going to narrow it down to 2. I like Alexander Walker or Hunter the most out of those 2. And I might go with Alexander Walker. I feel like with Kyle Anderson no longer in Minnesota, Na's going to have a pretty big role off the bench. We saw it in game 1. Absolutely in game 1 where he played over 25 minutes, was very productive. I'm interested in Na. That said, it's not for 10 or 12 team. We're talking about 14 team leagues going like 180 players deep where I would like Na.
I'll say Jackson Hayes. I'm surprised to see him on the list with these other 3, to be honest. But Alex, where do you stand?
This is a deep list. I'm surprised you said this is a 12-man league. This is more like a 16 team. But I mean, if you need a short streamer, I could see the argument for Boucher just because Olenek is out and the Raptors are dealing with injuries. I would say pick any of those guys up only based on the categories that you need. None of those guys are, I don't think, super long-term holds or anything.
All right, sound advice, gentlemen. Well, before we share our favorite free agent waiver wire targets, Alex, give us a quick word from our sponsor, Vivid Seats.
Finally, the NBA is back and court is in session. Oh, I like that one. And to start the season, Vivid Seats is offering fans $20 off their first $200 purchase because nothing beats seeing your favorite team hooping it up in front of thousands of cheering fans, every slam dunk, every fast break, and every buzzer beater of your favorite team live and in person. And because Vivid Seats is the only leading ticket company with a rewards program, you can earn perks on every purchase, like amazing deals and unrivaled annual rewards all season long. Plus, with a 100% buyer guarantee, you can be sure your ticket will be as legit as your love for the game. Visit vividseats.com or download the app today and use promo code RotoWire, that's ROTOWIRE, for $20 off your first $200 purchase. Promo code ROTOWIRE for $20 off your first minimum $200 ticket purchase. Download the app or visit vividseats.com. Vivid Seats, experience it live.
That's promo code ROTOWIRE.
It's waiver wire time, our first of the season. As far as game count next week, Philadelphia 76ers only have 2 games, so you can probably keep Embiid or Paul George on your bench. Everyone else is at 3 or 4 games. Keep that in mind. If you are looking to stream in, there's a lot of 4-game weeks. I'm going to kick things off. A name that is familiar in the waiver wire column, and I almost feel bad because I've been saying this name for like 5 years now. Jordan Clarkson, who was only 37% rostered, had a big first game against the Grizzlies, played 25 minutes, took 16 shots, scored 17 points, had 7 assists and 5 rebounds. Look, I like Keontae George and Colin Sexton. George still looked a little raw in game 1, and we know what Clarkson can do. He's a spark plug off the bench. Main thing here, Jazz are on a 4-game week, and we know Clarkson can fill it up. He's available in about a third of leagues on Yahoo or ESPN. So I would say 100% he should be a top streaming option for you heading into week 2.
Here's the other bit of reasoning behind that. Their other backup guard is Patty Mills, 87-year-old Patty Mills.
He played. He was out there, man. That was crazy. Take us to a more exciting name, Ken.
Dyson Daniels should be rostered everywhere. He's 43% rostered on Yahoo. He is your starting shooting guard for the Atlanta Hawks. The Aussie has pedigree. Let's not forget, he was the number 8 pick in the 2022 draft by the New Orleans Pelicans, traded to the Hawks this summer. He's still only 21 years old, yet has 2 years of NBA experience. In the opening night, he played 35 minutes as their starter, with 5 steals and 15 points. Look, the Hawks need his D. Steals are always underrated in fantasy. Daniels had 2.3 steals per 36 minutes with the Pelicans last year. That would lead the association, and I think he's going to get those minutes with the Hawks. You know, Bogdanovich, who's a little banged up now, he's better off the bench as a scorer. Outside of Trae Young, there are not a lot of scorers on this Atlanta team. Daniels has a really strong opportunity here. In short term, the Hawks have 4 games next week. Really like Dyson Daniels.
Yes, I agree with that take, Ken. Love some Dyson Daniels this year. My first free agent pickup of the year, we're going Toronto. Gradey Dick, starting shooting guard for the Toronto Raptors. He is, as of Thursday, October 24th, was 20% rostered on Yahoo. Gradey Dick, like I said, starting guard for the Toronto Raptors, had 16 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, as well as what he's known for, hitting a couple threes in the game opener, the regular season opener. Gradey Dick should be locked into this Raptors starting lineup all season. They drafted him last year. He was a top lottery pick, 13th overall pick in the 2023 draft. You know, he looks kind of dorky. Looks like he could probably only shoot threes, but it's a guy who can also put it on the floor. He's definitely more athletic than he looks. You know, with RJ Barrett, Scotty Barnes, Pirtle in that starting lineup, the Raptors need someone to stretch the floor. And I think Gradey Dick's going to be very secure in his role. So if you're looking at some of these other spot starters or some of these other newly minted starting shooting guards, Daniels being one, I prefer Daniels over Gradey Dick, but Gradey Dick is right behind him. And we're going to be mentioning a couple other guys who are perimeter options that are starting for their teams as we move on here.
Yeah, I like him this season. I think, like you said, Barrett's been out. Quickly's a little banged up now, but he's going to start all season, Gradey Dick. And we had Jakob Pertl say earlier in the year that this team is not going to be competitive and that they're going to let the young guys play. So you might be able to grab him now. He's going to be effective for you probably on 4-game weeks, maybe not an every week starter, but if he's still on your roster in March, it could be huge. He could be one of the guys playing 35 minutes a game, flinging up shots.
Do you think Pertl has his bags packed, ready for that trade?
Pertl, when I was watching that game, he like butterfingers, caught bricks for hands, but had passes bounce off his hands like 4 times in that game. It was ridiculous. He might already be mentally checked out. My next waiver wire option, Tre Mann of the Charlotte Hornets, someone I was grabbing late in some deeper fantasy leagues, 25% rostered on Yahoo, 14% on ESPN. He did get a little extra run in the opener against Houston because Brandon Miller got hurt.
Yep.
Brandon Miller's out tonight, Friday, with a left glute strain, I believe it is.
Really led their comeback in that game.
Nice comeback by the Hornets, yeah. Josh Green is still out, although I don't really expect Green to be a usage guy for Charlotte. Regardless, I think Mann is going to be in a 6-man role all season. We saw what he could do last year with LaMelo not available at the end of the season. In game 1, 29 minutes he played, 24 points on 16 shots, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 block. I expect probably more assists and fewer points out of him going forward. But yeah, he's if you're in a deeper league, especially, I think he is someone to keep an eye on just from a usage standpoint. And he's good LaMelo insurance. If you drafted LaMelo and you're still worried about his injuries and you have a stash spot, he's an option for you.
Good handcuff. All right, I'm going to go to Denver. Thank you, Alex. I'm going to go to Denver, where Christian Braun, their now starting shooting guard, is only managed in 12% of leagues on Yahoo. Hey, he is now the starter now that KCP signed with Orlando. The Nuggets have 0 depth. Braun is only 23 years old. He's trending up, and he played in all 82 games last season. He's durable. He'll do a bit of everything. He's not an ideal free throw shooter. That's the only caveat here. But I bet he sees 31 minutes a game all season. Denver plays in 4 games next week. Christian Braun, love him as a late round flyer and as a waiver wire pickup early in the season here.
Absolutely. Christian Braun was one of the other starting shooting guards I was alluding to. He looked fantastic in the season debut. He'll have to, fend off Strother for minutes later in the year, probably. But Christian Braun, along with Gradey Dick, along with Dyson Daniels, were some of my favorite late round darts. And I think they're now, after their season debuts, should absolutely be considered for 12 teamers.
I mean, that Russell Westbrook trade the Nuggets made was kind of a plea of desperation to have some depth, some bench on this squad. Braun's going to get a ton of minutes.
Who's your waiver wire guy?
My second one. I've got to bring him up here at least one last time. We talked about him during the preseason. Taylor Hendricks, forward for the Utah Jazz, starting small forward or power forward, depending on where you want to throw in Markkanen. 52% roster on Yahoo, 7% on ESPN. What I really love about Taylor Hendricks is the fact that he can get you 1+ steal, 1+ block, 1+ 3. And that is exactly what we saw from him in the season debut. He played 29 minutes, 12 points, 5 rebounds, 0 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, 3 3-pointers. He did just enough. Most encouraging was that 29 minutes. Taylor Hendricks is going to have some duds. He's going to go out there. He'll score 3 points, but hopefully hit enough threes, get enough steals, get enough blocks that he's worth your while to roster in 12-team leagues. Remain very high on him, and everything that we saw in the season debut is encouraging on my end.
He has a sweet 3-point stroke, especially for a big man. He knows what he's doing. All right, Alex, take us to your long shot, which I believe resides on the Brooklyn roster.
This is a long shot, but it's early in the season. Jalen Wilson, who he play for? The Brooklyn Nets. 3% rostered on Yahoo, 1% on ESPN. He played 34 minutes in the opener for the Brooklyn Nets. Now, some of that, we had Nick Clarkson limited to because of, I think it was a hamstring injury. Only played 15 minutes and then got ejected for clotheslining Dyson Daniels and kind of a dirty play. Day'Ron Sharp was out. Bojan Bogdanovic is still out, I guess. The overarching thing here, the Nets are really thin on the wing. Just they don't have a lot of forwards available. Jalen Wilson in the opener had 16 points on 7 field goal attempts. He got to the free throw line for 8 shots, took 5 threes, had 4 rebounds and 1 assist. And last year he played 30 plus minutes in 7 games, 11 points, 7 boards, 2 assists. So this is like, deep league, but that's what we're talking about. Brooklyn plays 4 games next week. So if you're in a 16-teamer, 18-teamer, whatever, you need someone to stream in and your waiver wire is pretty sparse. I think he does qualify as an option for you.
All right. Not bad. Not bad. I'm going to bring up a player that these guys hate, but I don't care. The opportunity's there. My long shot is old man Harrison Barnes of your San Antonio Spurs. The forward's rostered in 14% of leagues on Yahoo. He's not as old as he seems. He's actually only 32 years old. He's just been around forever. He could be the number 2 scoring option on this team after Wemby. Yeah, he's probably number 3 when Vassell comes back. But he'll get more shots than he did last year in Sacramento, where he was the 4th person on the totem pole there. Barnes should start all season. He hasn't missed a game since the 2021-22 season. It's going to give you solid percentages and a little bit of everything across the stat line. And the Spurs play 4 games next week. So if you need a body for next week, Harrison Barnes is an extremely safe long shot for your roster.
Okay. My long shot of the week is Yves Missi, rookie center for the New Orleans Pelicans. Missi had a decent season debut. He's 20 years old, 6'11", 230 pounds, played for Baylor, first round pick, number 21 overall by the Pelicans. He had 3 big blocks in his NBA debut, 12 points, 7 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal in 23 minutes off the bench. I was hoping he would sneak his way into the starting lineup, especially with Zion out. I still think that's in play. Daniel Tice actually started game 1. I'm interested to see what the Pelicans do in game 2. Zion's going to play, but you've got DeJounte Murray's out. Trey Murphy's out. So are they going to go with a smaller lineup, have Zion at the 5? Herb Jones is going to play tonight it looks like all indications are he's going to play. He left the regular season debut at one point during that game. But I do think Messi's going to eventually have an opportunity to start for this team. It might be matchup based. My best comp to him would be like what we saw from Derek Lively in his rookie season. Mm-hmm. I think we could see similar production from Missi for this year. So if you were in a league that rostered Lively last year and that was good value for you, Missi's a good guy to consider. Also, the fact that you can probably get him for cheap right now off the waiver wire.
100% blocks. A lot of teams need blocks, and those guys get scooped up quick. So I agree on Missi. All right, let's move into our DraftKings Pick 6 segment. Also, maybe a little DFS talk. Each Friday, we're going to talk and share our favorite Pick 6 and DFS picks. But quickly, we do have a word from our sponsor.
We're thrilled to be partnering up with DraftKings Pick 6 this NBA season. And we still got a little time before opening night, but plenty of NFL options available over at Pick 6. Really been enjoying playing there each and every weekend. I think a certain quarterback will throw for more than 300 yards. How about your favorite receiver scoring a touchdown? Check out Pick 6, the newest way to play fantasy football and win cash with DraftKings. Here's how it works. Just pick 2 to 6 players of the same sport and choose if they'll have more or less of a given stat. For football, we're talking yards, catches, touchdowns, etc. Lock in your picks and compete against opponents for a shot to win huge cash prizes. Download the all-new DraftKings Pick 6 app right now and use our code ROTOPICK. That's ROTOPICK, ROTOPICK. For new Pick 6 customers, play at least $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits guaranteed. Again, that code is ROTOPICK. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick Six not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. See terms at picksix.draftkings.com/promos.
All right, it's a 10-game slate tonight. Highest over-under. Chicago at Milwaukee, 235. As always, for the big injuries on the slate, check the RotoWire lineups page for more than just injuries as well. It's a great page in general. Ken has shown himself out of the podcast studio, but you can just assume that on any Friday where the Celtics play, he is on the Derek White over for any stat that you could, that you could possibly imagine. Shannon, is there any place that your eyes went first on this slate?
Yeah, I'm going to go to Detroit. Tobias Harris is at 5.5 rebounds for a matchup against Cleveland. Detroit, outside of Jalen Duren, and yes, Cade Cunningham's a great rebounder for a point guard. That's because he's a gigantic point guard. But outside of Duren and Cade, the Pistons don't have anyone to rebound the ball. And against a team like the Cavs, they're going to need Tobias Harris to be crashing the boards, getting in there, getting dirty in the paint. And 5.5 boards is totally attainable. This is a guy who averaged 6.5 rebounds per game last year. He only had 2 boards in the season opener, but I expect him to be forced and in a position where he needs to grab more rebounds tonight for the Pistons. So I like the over on Tobias Harris, 5.5 rebounds.
I would be more likely to go over on his rebounds than his points, considering he may be checked by Evan Mobley, who held Scotty Barnes to a pretty bad game in the opener. One place I'm looking is the Knicks Pacers game. We probably don't do as many unders as we could on this show and just in general, but I'm on the Pascal Siakam under 21.5 points at the Knicks tonight. Like I said, road game against the Knicks. OG Anunoby is probably going to be guarding Siakam, but I'm sure Bridges will get some chances on Siakam as well. I think it's just a tough matchup for him when Siakam, I mean, he can have some big scoring games, but this is about what he averages. So I'm just assuming that for a tough wing defensive matchup, he may struggle tonight.
That's a good pick. I'm going to stick with that same game, though. That Pacers-Knicks game. One guy that I do like is Miles Turner over on 15.5 points. This is especially if Isaiah Jackson sits out, which right now he's questionable with a groin injury. We saw a big game from Miles Turner in the regular season opener because Isaiah Jackson was gone. James Wiseman is out for the season now. The Pacers are very shorthanded in front court, especially if Jackson misses another game. Miles Turner, he's averaged 17, 18 points per game the last 2 seasons. I think we're going to see another outing where he is going to be called on to carry a bigger load because of the shorthanded front court with the Pacers, and he'll easily get over that 15.5 points.
Yeah, he took 14 shots in the opener, included 8 threes and 3 free throw attempts. Cat's not a great defender. And if, I think our bets are sort of correlated, where it's like if Scotty Barnes is struggling because Anunoby's on him and Bridges is checking him, then that could be more shots for Miles Turner. My second, and I suppose my final lean for tonight, I'm going with another under. It's the Jusuf Nurkic, under 18.5 points plus rebounds. It's a pretty low mark for him, but he only played 22 minutes in the opener against Zubac. And I think he had 11 and 9, basically around this number. But this is a road game against the Lakers and against AD, and I don't necessarily like that for Nurkic. I think he could have a good year in general, still like him in fantasy, but this is not a matchup where I would be targeting him.
Yeah, I agree. I like that pick. Now, because it's my favorite time of each Friday episode, let's share a couple DFS picks. Okay. Don't your favorite part's coming, Ken. But for DFS lineups on DraftKings, the Friday night slate, we talked about the Pelicans a little bit already this episode. Zion's returning, but DeJounte Murray is out for an extended stretch with his hand injury. That means more CJ McCollum. That means more Brandon Ingram. Trey Murphy's also out. It's also a game against Portland in Portland. I really expect CJ to have another big game. He had a very nice game in the opener with 36 fantasy points. 7,500 is kind of pricey, but I do think his ownership will be muted enough because of that salary that he's an attractive play. One other guard that needs to be highlighted from a DFS standpoint, we've already talked about for season long, Dyson Daniels, despite the gigantic regular season game opener, he's only 4,600 on DraftKings. Until that price goes up, I'm plugging him into my lineup. He's basically a safe bet.
Bully an undersized Tre Mann with Miller out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So those are two of my favorite picks for tonight's DFS slate on DraftKings.
Ken, I think we can move on to your old man rant.
Arg! Send Bronny James to the G League. This kid has no business being in the NBA. He played in only 25 games at USC with only 6 starts. Bronny shot under 37% from the field in college. 37%! Then he shot a miserable 24% in 6 NBA preseason games. Enough with the checking in with dad sideline circus show. Let him work on his game. Leave it to the Lakers to focus on entertainment over winning. The G League starts November 8th. It will be an absolute travesty if Bronny isn't starting for the South Bay Lakers on November 8th. Leave the kid at South Bay until he shoots 40% from the field. Doesn't LeBron get enough attention already? Arrgh!
What Ken's saying is if you drafted Bronny James in fantasy, sell high. Sell high before the G League season starts November 8th. That's inside information, the start of the G League season. Okay, I think we avoided any mispronounced names. It was pretty talked a lot of Barnes, Braun, Wilson, Mann.
Isn't it Braun, not Brown? I think Shannon.
It is Brown.
It's Brown.
It's Brown.
Brown? They don't say
Yeah,
Braun?
it's Brown. Yeah, I know.
Should spell it Brown then. That's
Thank you everybody for joining us on the RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast presented by Pick6, DraftKings Pick6, and Vivid Seats. Don't forget rotowire.com/try for the free look behind the paywall. Ken, take us out of here.
Yeah, let's go to San Antonio, where new veteran point guard Chris Paul had this to say after the Spurs lost to the Mavs last night. There are no moral victories, but we played against a team that went to the finals. So there's a continuity they have. For me, not knowing what to expect in the preseason is one thing. The regular season's another thing. But I'm honestly so excited about the spurts that I've seen and what I know our team is capable of. Attention passengers, this 3-car fantasy train wreck has hit the end of the line. Harrison Barnes.